Welcome to the AEC Groundbreaking Growth podcast.
Hosted by Stambaugh Ness.
Hey everyone, welcome to AEC Groundbreaking Growth. This is Emily here with my co-host Jen Knox. Last month, we explored the ways to build a culture of connection with Tony Smith. And today we have another amazing guest to take the conversation one level deeper as we develop the next generation of AEC professionals.
Yeah, and it is my pleasure to introduce Kevin Brown. Kevin is actually an old classmate of mine from Widener University. And in his career, he's held roles from construction inspection, construction manager, and now as a construction services manager for Transystems in their Philadelphia office. And recently, I think also adjunct professor, Kevin, correct?
Yep.
At the College of New Jersey, which is great. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
I know it's great to have a chat like this. And, you know, it's been so long since you and I have connected, and we found kind of this other common thread that connected us the whole way back in high school even. We both participated in the ACE Mentor program.
Yep.
And for our listeners that may not be familiar with the program, would you be able to kind of give an overview of it? And then why it was so instrumental in your kind of choice to follow engineering and why you think it's important to give back now?
Yes. So the ACE program is a mentor program that focuses on engaging and enlightening high school students in the fields of architecture, construction, and engineering. And I was first exposed to this program when I was in high school. I think I was a junior in high school. And to be completely honest, like I had no clue what these fields were. And I went to a high school that was called the High School of Engineering and Science, but there really wasn't too much emphasis at that time on, you know, a lot of the technical career choices. So this program really opened my eyes to engineering. And my original reason for getting involved was, you know, a bunch of my friends were there and they gave out free pizza.
Yeah.
But
always a plus.
Always.
A high school student.
we actually went home with like a box of pizza like each time.
Yeah.
But in the program, you know, they exposed us to like these different concepts of engineering and design and things that like blew my mind away. And so that was where I started to think about getting into the engineering field. And actually, that's where I decided to go to college, was from that program.
Yeah.
And so I met folks in the profession, kind of guided me. And then, you know, that's kind of where I started. And I actually give back currently as a mentor for that program.
Yeah. And I think, Kevin, what resonated so much with me when I was in the program is, right, you get exposure to some of these STEM fields in some high school classes, right? If you're taking a CAD class or whatnot, but it's a completely different experience to like talk to a professional, right? Or someone that's actually doing this day in and day out and see the application of a lot of the things you may be learning in high school, or see how broad of an area those kind of skills can be applied in. So that's what I loved, is just being able to connect with actual professionals, because I don't think a lot of students get to see that or truly understand what an electrical engineer does or what a mechanical engineer does. And it's different hearing it from them.
Yep. And I think another big piece that ACE did was it showed how all those different professionals kind of work together to solve issues or to bring a project to, you know, its final deliverable state. So I think that's something that you don't really learn in school. You kind of, even in college, you don't learn about the collaboration piece as much.
Yeah, it's like that team dynamic that so I think a lot of like students love, like that's why people like love sports and stuff like that. Like it's such that collaboration on a team base. But I feel like that's what it is, like working in AEC too. It is such a team sport.
And that prepares you for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Kevin, you talk a lot about mentoring, and it seems that you feel this great responsibility to give back to the next generation, why is it so important for mentors to understand the value they have to offer and that responsibility as well?
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget about the challenges that we face, like getting to where we are today. And if we take that time to think about those challenges and how we can help our future generation kind of overcome some of those challenges, provide some advice, some guidance for them to overcome those challenges, because they're going to be faced with new challenges that we weren't faced with. So if we can help them, you know, knock out some of those obstacles, I think it just will help prepare them for the industry. It'll help prepare them and give them a leg up on some of the things that they're going to be working in once they enter the industry. So I think that's the big reason why I do it. I had so many obstacles that I was faced with, and you know, for most of it, I didn't necessarily have a proper mentor, I would say, but you know, I'm thinking about like how much I would be able to really like be successful in a earlier stage of my career if I didn't, face some of these challenges. And so why wouldn't I go back and help someone else kind of overcome those things? And so that's kind of the big reason why I mentor.
Mhm, mhm. And I think sometimes it's just having a sounding board that has been through something similar,
Yep.
right? As a high school student, or even like in my college classes, like I couldn't talk to my parents really about like, you know what I mean? Like struggles in engineering school or things like that. And it's like having a person that has been through something similar as a sounding board, not even someone that's, been in your exact shoes, but just knows kind of the dynamic of how much of a struggle it can be to get through that time period of life.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
I think when you're forging your own path or sort of choosing a different path than your parents or than a lot of people that are in your immediate circle is hard and you kind of feel alone or like overwhelmed. And I think having someone there to just say, I get it. And I faced similar things, or I faced this and it was different at that time. Here's how I handled that situation. I think um, it is a huge benefit to any mentee or any young person.
Mhm.
Yeah, and even like the mistakes that like I've made, I can sit there and I can say, hey, like this is what I did and it didn't work. So maybe we try this. Like if I could do this over again, this is what I would do. So maybe you try this. And
Yeah.
so we kind of, we skip that one step of you making the same mistake that I made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I loved about like actually then getting into college classes and whatnot is I actually feel that the female representation in like my professors and stuff were actually really strong. Like there were a few female professors in my program, and it meant so much to me to see kind of myself represented in these like working professionals. And I think that's why, you know, why I wanted to like go and give back to ACE is there weren't a lot of women in the ACE program when I was in high school, and I didn't see a ton in the mentors yet. But I think the script has changed a ton just in the past 15 years since I've been, in that program. And it's important to see yourself in your future profession.
Yes, I agree. And I've seen a huge change, like especially with teaching,
Yeah.
and just the diversity in the classroom. It
Hmm.
just gives me so much more hope,
Yeah.
for the future, and seeing that diversity, translate into the workforce and hopefully, translate into, leadership and senior level roles in the future. Because what I've seen is there's so much talent out there. And that goes back to another reason why I like to give back, is because sometimes there's talent that doesn't even get tapped into because we haven't gone into these underrepresented groups to let them know about these opportunities. So once
Hmm.
we tap into these groups and bring, you know, that knowledge to the forefront,
Hmm.
I think that will continue to propel our industry, forward.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's that like diversity just of thought in business is so needed
Yes.
because, and especially in AEC, because we're designing and building, oftentimes these structures, these utilities, et cetera, that service the full community, and that community is diverse and it's amazing. And we need that thought, all those diverse thought perspectives on the leadership side as well.
100%.
So it
Yes.
it not only makes good, it makes sense holistically, but it makes good business sense as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with your broader perspective, Kevin, as being a professor, still being involved in the mentorship program, and then, also being a technical professional yourself, how do you think the industry has progressed regarding diversity in the past 15 years, and where are the gaps that you still see?
So I've personally seen, just from my first steps into college to where I'm at now, there has been progress made. Like I just mentioned, going in the classroom, there's a lot more diversity. I've seen a lot more, female representation. I've seen a lot more female representation on, leadership side. But there's still more to be done. I still think there's still more to be done in the Black and Brown communities, and making sure that they have opportunities in our field as well. So I think that's where we can also put some focus in, and I think there's some gaps to be closed in that arena. But again, looking back to my first day on campus to where we are now, I didn't expect, I thought that it was going to be a longer time for us to start seeing some change, and I am proud that there is change, but I think there's definitely more work to be done, especially getting some of our, the minorities into leadership roles. I think that's where there's a lot more work that needs to be done.
And it feels like we're kind of at a point, I don't want to say either, just generationally, as leadership kind of turns over, that hopefully opportunities will become available and be given to diverse candidates. So I don't know, I feel like we're kind of, I don't want to say at a tipping point, because I think we've made great progress, and I'm hoping it will kind of almost accelerate in the next 10 to 15 years too.
Yeah, I'm thinking 5 to 10 years. I'm thinking we're going to see that growth, like this is going to happen just like that. I'm optimistic about that. And there's just so much innovation that is yet to be seen. Cause like I just talked to some of these students that, when we do the ACE program, and it's just like, darn, I didn't even think of that. And so like there's so much out there, and I just can't wait until, they enter the industry and we start, progressing.
Yeah. So kind of a bit of a pivot to what we've been talking about, that next generation, right? So you're working with these students right now that are in high school through the ACE Mentor program, you're seeing college level individuals. I feel like the generation coming out of college right now can get a bad rap sometimes, right? We hear this Gen Z kind of mindset thing. I don't think it's true for all Gen Z, just like all millennials aren't the same, et cetera.
Right.
What are the amazing qualities you see in Gen Z that you're super excited about?
The fact that they actually ask questions and they challenge, like that's, I think maybe generations before we didn't challenge enough. And I think millennials, I think we just started to challenge a little bit, but we accepted things. But the future generation, pushes the envelope. They challenge what we sometimes call the norm. Like, why is it the norm? And I think that's what we need in our industry from, a technical standpoint, but also just from a cultural standpoint, like in our firms. And so I think someone needs to come in and start asking why, and can we do things different? Can we be more efficient? And I think that future generation is asking those questions, and those questions are needed.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And we talk often with our clients that, as technology is advancing and this new generation is coming into the workforce, our business model may need to shift and mold and change a little bit too, right? A lot of the design components may be picked up or supported by tech, but we as individuals and as engineers then need to have kind of this consultative mindset to be able to take that output, truly understand it, review options with a client. And really it's that person-to-person relationship, right? We talked about that team-based dynamic. I think that will be heightened as tech rises and this new generation is coming in and demanding kind of more of that collaboration or work-life balance to some extent as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agree with that. I agree with that.
Cool.
So Kevin, just to switch back to the mentoring, can you kind of walk us through this extent of your mentoring relationships? You aren't just exposing youth to profession, but truly walking beside them in their journey at this point. So, which is a big transition from high school to college and college to working, et cetera. So can you just kind of describe the extent of that mentorship throughout that process?
Yeah. So I always think as mentors, it when it becomes something that's challenging, that's when you're doing the right thing. Like it's not being a mentor is not easy. So to the extent of how I mentor and what I think provides the most value is not just, showing up to an ACE event and working along the students with the students. I think that's great. And I think we need to do that. But I think the value comes beyond that, when students need help looking at applications for college, maybe scholarship opportunities. So I'll send a lot of folks that I mentor scholarship opportunities. If there are situations going on where they're either in school or maybe they're working. Challenge, I had a student who reached out and had trouble with just getting to school. It was a Widener student. Didn't have a car, and they were like, I don't know if I can do this, like just getting on the bus every day, and just being there to motivate them and just give them that encouragement and let them know like, hey, like it's going to all pay off in the end, and don't just give up. Something I wish I had when I went through my trials and tribulations and everything, someone that could just, hey, this is what you're going to see. And then we have, folks that are now graduating and then entering the workplace, and still, some of them are getting married, having kids, and I'm still like talking to them about like, hey, like these are the options I have. Like this company reached out to me and I'm thinking about going there, but these are the pros and cons. Like, what do you think? So like these are students that like I've connected with in high school and kind of still been working with them and just been someone they can reach out to. Maybe we don't talk every day, maybe it's once a month, but someone they can reach out to just for some advice. And I think that's the beauty of mentorship, because it doesn't have to be, a best friend. It doesn't have to be a family member. It could just really be someone that that if I call or text or email, they're going to respond and give me the attention that I need at that point. And that's what it is. It's just being there and giving someone access to you and your experiences. And that's what I like to do.
Yeah. And I imagine, Kevin, along that journey, right, from you kind of walking alongside them from high school through after college and into the workforce, I'm sure you've gained a little bit too, right? Like the exposure
yes.
as being a mentor, you've learned so much. Can you talk about that a little bit?
You learn about yourself. You learn about for me, there's a lot of things that like when I'm working with students that I learn about the things that I would have done differently. But it also teaches me patience. It humbles me. And then it also guides how I lead going forward. Sometimes I'll have an experience with someone I'm mentoring, and I'll be like, you know what? I can apply some of this to maybe a class I'm teaching. Or I can apply some of this to like the training that I do at work. And so it really is something that will continuously evolve over time. And that's what I enjoy about it. Like, I mean, I enjoy so many parts of mentoring and helping people out, but the part where you learn about yourself and was like, hey, I didn't even know I had it in me.
Yeah. It's funny. I was giving a training the other day and we were talking about delegation and why it's so important to delegate as a manager, et cetera. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of mentoring. And one of the things that came up and we talked about is if you're thinking about your own growth, right? If I want to be promoted or take that next step in my career, I need to make sure someone's ready to take my space and fill my shoes. And the only way I can do that is to invest and pour in them and to get them kind of up to speed and really learn. So there's this great kind of fulfillment into pouring someone else, but you can also think of it as it's allowing you then to kind of move forward as well, and move into your next step and your next role as a leader too. So,
Yep.
yeah, cool. Well, Kevin, love kind of chatting with you here today. Appreciate all the work you do as a mentor and why it's important to kind of build that next generation leader within AEC, and not only kind of looking at mentorship as giving to others, but kind of how we build kind of that diverse workforce for the future, and ensuring that these kind of students and new employees into our workforce are successful, not just at work, but in life, right? You talked about like, how do I even, kind of power through and get to school today, or just that emotional support needed. Knowing that our kind of listener base is kind of next generation leaders ourselves, right? The three of us. What advice would you give them in regards to kind of mentoring and giving back, and how we think about that next generation of AEC professionals?
Yeah, I think the advice I would give, other than just simply saying, be a mentor, I think you really want to have empathy. A lot of people, you have your own challenges that you went through, but also take a step back and listen to whoever you're mentoring. Just listen, and then provide the best advice you can for that individual, and not really focus on yourself as much, because sometimes we come from various backgrounds and sometimes we have different experiences, different opportunities. And so we have to just separate that and really listen to the individuals you're working with and provide the best advice for that person. So I think that would be the advice I would give for someone that's going to be up and coming and hoping to help their succession.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a great mindset to have, that kind of patience and listening.
Yep.
So appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Emily, I think another great episode in the books, and want to thank our listeners, and we'll see you next time.